Number 2, let's talk. That's 4.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Wabosha and welcome to the Slay Squad. So I've been getting a few questions on my DM about the Bali trip, how I planned it, if I used a travel agency, and the answer is no. I just planned the entire thing by myself. I just really like planning out stuff like travel trips, so I really enjoyed the process. So in today's video I'm going to be giving you guys some travel planning tips, and just a disclaimer, I don't really consider myself like some sort of travel expert. These are just tips that I have picked up along the way. So let's get straight onto the video. Number 1, let's talk flights. Now when it comes to flights, book early. If there's one thing in your trip that I will not recommend leaving until the very last minute, it is your flight, because there is such a huge difference between even a couple of weeks when you're booking your flight. Case in point, when I booked, when I was looking for a flight to go to Bali, thing is I split my flight into 2, and we'll talk about that a bit later. So when I was booking my flight, the first time when I checked for those tickets, they were about, let's say, around 85k, and by the time I was booking a month later, they were all up to 100,000 shillings. A friend of mine booked the ticket a month after me and it had gone up by 35,000 shillings. So like I said, a couple of weeks makes such a huge difference when it comes to traveling, and a difference of 35,000 shillings, that's enough for accommodation. So yeah, make sure you book really early when it comes to flights. The second thing is whichever site you're going to be using to book your flight, make sure you're using incognito mode. I think this is something that if you're a frequent traveler by now, you already know, because the sites use cookies. So if you keep logging into the site again and again, the price keeps going up, because now they know you're interested in the flight. So whichever site you use to book your ticket, make sure it's in incognito mode. So when it comes to booking a flight, the site that I'd recommend and the site that I normally use is Skyscanner. And Skyscanner is a site that basically scans the entire web for lowest prices when it comes to airfare. Now what I normally do is I just downloaded the app on my phone, and that way I always have it with me all the time. And yeah, basically that's it for the app. Also, another tip that I can give you is that sometimes it's cheaper to split your flight. So like I previously mentioned, when I was going to Bali, I didn't take a straight ticket to Bali, and I'll show you guys why. So when you go to Skyscanner and then you input your flight details, leaving Nairobi from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, landing at Denpasar International Airport in Bali, then the flight ticket, I went by Emirates. The flight ticket the flight ticket comes to 108,808 Kenyan shillings. Now what I did is I split my flight into 2. I went from here to Kuala Lumpur and then from Kuala Lumpur to Bali. Now from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport all the way to Kuala Lumpur by Emirates, just the same airline, it costs 58,165 Kenyan shillings. Now from Kuala Lumpur to Denpasar, that's in Bali, there are so many budget airlines that you can take. So what I did is I took one of those budget airlines. So you can see that now from Kuala Lumpur International Airport all the way to Denpasar, then the price becomes around 6,404 Kenyan shillings. So if you add that up, that's a total of 64,569 Kenyan shillings, and the difference between the two is 44,239 Kenyan shillings. Now that's a lot of money to save. That is almost 50,000 that you have saved by just splitting your flight into 2. So you can make sure that you do your research when it comes to air tickets. You have to be smart, you know, so that you can be able to save a lot of money. Another reason as to why I recommend using Skyscanner is that you're able to select for yourself the lowest combination that will give you the lowest ticket prices. And this is what I mean. Just put your where you're coming from and your destination, and then you click on the little calendar icon, and it brings you a bigger calendar which has dots. So the green it has green, orange and red dots, and those basically indicate the prices. So the green prices are the lowest prices, and the red prices, and the red dots are the highest prices. So as you can see, you can be able to pick, like if you travel on a Monday as opposed to a Wednesday with an orange dot, then your ticket price will be lower. So if your travel dates are flexible, then you can be able to choose 2 green dots as opposed to just being very rigid, and the dates you end up picking are the dates with the higher prices. Yes, I didn't know this last year, but some days are more expensive to travel than others, so Skyscanner really helps with checking that out as well. So another reason that I like to use Skyscanner, and yes, this is starting to sound like an ad, but I promise you they probably don't even know who this little girl from Kenya is, but they're able to give you cheapest rates in case you don't know where you want to go. And let me explain that a bit. So when you go to the Skyscanner app or the site, what you're able to do is put your departure. So let's say departure, I put Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and then for arrivals you put everywhere, and then you click search. And what it does is it gives you the cheapest flights within your travel period. So let's say you have put between the 20th and the 30th, then it gives you the lowest prices during that period. And let me tell you, sometimes it gets really crazy. Like there was this one time that I checked for a flight that was about 4 months away, and a flight to Kuala Lumpur, a return ticket was going for 45,000 Kenyan shillings. That is a steal, a huge steal. So if you're flexible with where you want to go, this is it's a good way to narrow down your options, because then if you have those options, you can then now narrow it down further to like visa-free countries, and then you narrow it down further to like affordable countries, because there's no need of saving so much money on your airfare and then you go to a country where the cost of living is really expensive. So don't get too excited by the price. Make sure you also narrow it down completely to a favorable country to go to. Then last but not least, when it comes to your flight, is the connection time. Some airports are really huge. You will have to walk for so long, take a train, take a bus before you get to your terminal. So what I like to do is make sure that your transfer time is not less than 2 hours. Actually, what I like to do is I make sure my transfer is not less than 2 hours and 30 minutes. 3 hours, the better. Then that way I even have enough time to go to the washroom. Then I can take my sweet time to walk and get to the transfer gate. I don't want to be that person who's normally trying to run from one side to the next, and sometimes you're getting searched so many times. So just for your peace of mind, make sure that the period between your transfers is enough. Don't take a flight where the transfer period is like 1 hour. Now you'll be so stressed if you're at a big airport. Number 2, accommodation. Now when it comes to accommodation, you need to make sure that where you're staying is at the perfect, convenient location. Now here is why. If you stay too far from things you want to do, then you're going to spend so much money on transport getting to all these other places that you want to go. So what I recommend you do is start by Googling things that you want to do, and then you map them out on Google Maps. Just a simple, to find out where most of the things are. For example, if there are the east side or the west side or the north side or the south side, then you'll have a general idea of what side of a country you want to stay at, because there's no use of staying at the north side and everything you want to do is at the south side. Then every single day you're going to be waking up spending so much money on transport to go all the way down. So map out the areas first and then choose where you want to stay. Now, sometimes you might choose to overlook this for certain reasons. For example, when we were going to Bali, we were traveling 7 people, and we were all like 2 youngins who want to party. We're going to Bali over New Year so that we can have fun. So a lot of the activities we were doing were in Ubud, which is like the shags of Bali. And listen, I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to stay in Ubud. I want to stay in Kuta, where all the clubs are. So what we did is, we just had to choose to stay closer to where the party zone was. But then this compromise isn't too bad because there were 7 of us. So when we were hiring a car or going by Grab, then that fare is being divided by 7 people. Then that way it makes sense to be able to stay at a more party zone than going to the like Shag's place of Bali. I hope that makes sense. Now when it comes to booking my accommodation, the site that I'd personally recommend, and again that I normally use, is Agoda. Now the reason that I love Agoda is because they allow you to book your accommodation but not pay immediately. So what happens is you just go, input the travel dates, the people, all these other things, find an accommodation that works for you. And then when you're clicking, don't click on any, look for the one that says pay nothing until X date. So what usually happens is you book your accommodation. Let's say if I'm traveling in December, I can book now and these people won't take any of the money. Let's say if I'm traveling around 18th of December, I book now and they won't deduct any money from my card until around 15th December. Now the reason that this really helps is because I might not be able to have the money right now, but I know by December I'll have saved up all the money that I need for accommodation. So that is why I really recommend Agoda. I love them. Like I have zero complaints when it comes to them. And the last thing for accommodation is food. You can choose to have no meals at all, or you can choose to pick a meal. Now if you're going to pick a meal, I'd recommend going with breakfast. Now here is why. One, if you're traveling a huge group of people, trying to round people up and decide where you want to go in the morning when you're hungry is... Listen, this is what we did when we were going to Langkawi, and we always ended up just having brunch instead. Because by the time everyone is woken up, everyone is ready, then it's way too late. So from that day, I normally make it like a rule. If I'm booking an accommodation, I'm just going to book plus breakfast. Another reason why you might want to consider booking breakfast is that if you have an accommodation that is giving you a big buffet breakfast, then you go and you eat for like 3-4 people at breakfast. Then by the time you're hungry, it's like 4 uko. Then you eat another big meal, and that way you've saved money. At lunchtime, I've had so many people who do this and it works for them, so that's also something that you might want to consider. I have a really tiny stomach, I can't eat that much at a time, so that skipping ones does not really work for me, but for you it might work. Number 3, let's talk about budgeting, and for me I think this is the most important one. It's what we should have even started with, because if you have no money, you're not going anywhere. And also I'm a huge believer in you should not travel and come back home broke. So budgeting is really important for me. So if you have already booked your flight ticket, that one you'll have already had money for from before, so that's out of the way. Then second, accommodation, you've used Agoda, so you don't need to pay for the money now. All you have is the amount that you know you should be saving up towards. Then what's left that is major is transport, food, and shopping. So transport, if you're traveling within your country, then it's really simple, because all you have to do is look for places that you know you might be going. You input the locations on Uber, and then you just add them up and then add a little extra, because trust me, when you're traveling, something always goes wrong. You always need a bit extra cash. So for that, it's simple. If it's somewhere overseas, you also need to do your research, because sometimes having some special like Metro cards will make such a huge difference, trust me. Also, Malaysia also has free buses in the city center. You can use those. So doing your research and watching tons of YouTube videos really helps you sort of be able to gauge how much money you should leave out for transport. Now when it comes to food, how I plan my itinerary is so thorough that on most days I know exactly where I want to eat just from watching YouTube videos. So again, that really helps me when I'm creating my budget, because I know exactly how much I need to spend, or rather a range. A range of what I need to spend. Again, watching YouTube videos really helps you. For example, when I was going to Bali, I watched so many videos, and from the videos I watched, I knew that for a basic meal, a basic good meal, I would need only 500 shillings per meal to be able to get a really good meal. And where we were staying, the street had so many nice Instagrammable restaurants, and there's this one place we used to love to eat. On the first day I ate there, and I ate pork steak, fries, and a soda, and it came to 250 Kenyan shillings. So you can see from my research, I've only used half my budget. So make sure you watch so many videos, listen to prices. There's so many travel bloggers who vlog, and they'll make sure they include prices. So make sure you're noting those prices down so that you can be able to have a range of what to budget for. Now, when it comes to shopping, I think you should, okay, if you're a frequent traveler, especially to one country multiple times, then for me that country is Malaysia, because my brother is there and I go to visit him a lot. So I have a list. Like the first time, the second time I went, I just collected the receipts and I noted down things that I noticed that I always get each time I travel. So now I have in my journal a list of things and their prices. So before I go, I just do the math of how much that would cost, and then when I go there, I know exactly how much I'm spending, and it really helps when it comes to budgeting. If it's a country you've never been to, watch YouTube videos. Again, if it's especially for marketplaces, it will give you a gauge. It will allow you to gauge how much you should save for. For example, most places you need to bargain. Like a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, bargaining is allowed, and the initial price you'll be given is only sometimes even 3-5 times more. For example, I bought some key holders for me and my friends, and I got them for about, I think, 200 bob if you convert to Kenyan shillings, and I was so excited because I had bargained and negotiated the guy down. When my brother went to the next stall, the guy was selling them for an equivalent of like 30 shillings. So you see, if I had seen that key holder in a YouTube video, then I would have been able to be like, nah, I know how much this key holder costs. So I guess at the end of the day, what I'm saying is you just need to do so much research so that you can be able to have like an airtight budget. Number 4, let's talk about transport. Now, regardless of what airline you're going to be using, they more than likely have an app. I recommend that you download this app because it can be the reason that you don't get left by your flight. And let me give you guys a practical, or rather an example of what actually happened to me a while back. I was in the Dubai airport. My layover was 8 hours. I was really tired, barely got any sleep on the plane. So when I got to the airport, I was just on sleep mode. So what did I do? I set my alarm, found a reclining chair, took my shuka, covered myself all the way to my head, had my that eye mask thing on, put my suitcase next to me, held it, and I blacked out. Now when I was waking up, I realized for a flight that's about to leave, our gate area looks a bit empty. So when I checked my phone, I found that I had a notification that the gate had changed. Now, if I did not have the app, maybe it would have taken me way longer to realize that the gate had changed. And the gate hadn't changed to like just a couple of meters away. It had changed to quite a distance away. So from that day, whichever airline I travel with, I always download their app. Next up, let's talk about the taxi apps. So not everywhere will you find Uber, Bolt, or Little Cab. So you need to do research and find what apps are available at your destination. For example, in almost all countries in Southeast Asia, you'll find that Uber has been banned, so they use Grab primarily. In places like, in some places in Philippines, you'll find there's no Grab, they have a different app, so you also have to look into that. So just make sure you do your research beforehand. Download it from home, because if the Wi-Fi is a bit shifty and you're not able to download where you are, then you already have the app on your phone. And now that I've mentioned Wi-Fi, let's just talk about SIM cards. Where you're going to travel to, I recommend that you get yourself a SIM card so that you can always have internet, because internet is very, very important, so that you can be able to call your taxis and also locate your location using Google Maps. For me, most of the time when I'm traveling, I'm normally alone, so I prefer to buy my SIM card from the airport. So if I have my SIM card from the airport, then I know I have like a means of communicating with people straight from the minute I have my SIM card. But if you're many of you guys and there is good internet at the airport, you can just call your Uber or your Grab from the airport, and then you hop on and you buy your SIM card somewhere in the city. Usually you save a ton of money doing that. If I'm alone, I'll just suck it up, buy the SIM card from the airport, because especially as a solo woman traveler, man, I need to be able to communicate at all times. And speaking of also the directions and being able to get to places, make sure you also download offline maps in case you go somewhere and there's no reception. Then that way you're able to have a means of moving around easily. And also, if you know, like for solo women travelers, man, we struggle. It's always hard to remain safe in the streets. So what I recommend you do is you download the offline apps and then you put in your earphones, and then that way it's just like telling you where to walk, so you just don't look so obviously lost when you're there with Google Maps and then you're trying to figure out where you are, going around in circles. So it's easier if you just put on your earphones, you've put in the directions, and then you just look as if you're casually walking to wherever you're going to. Also in this category, I guess we can put food delivery apps. Make sure you research and download them beforehand. They can become such a huge lifesaver after a whole day of exploring. You come back to your accommodation, you're really, really tired, you don't want to go out and look for food, so it's really easy to just have it brought to your accommodation. Number 5, planning of your itinerary. Now this is the place where I pride myself most in. I love doing itineraries. So how I normally do it is pretty simple. First, I go to YouTube, Google, blog posts, and I just basically type things to do in X and X area. Then I write all these activities down together with their prices and their location, you know, like where they're offered. Then next, I narrow down these activities depending on personal interest and also budget. So once they're narrowed down, then I go back to trusty old Google Maps. So I look at where these activities are placed and also the amount of time that I'll need at each activity, and I try to map where they are at the location. Now the reason that I do this is that I don't want to go to one place today and then the next day I realize I want to go to a place and then I find out that it was right next to it and I could have done it on the same day. Also, I don't want to go from point X down here all the way to this other point up here on one day and just spend the entire day in a car. You know, it doesn't really make sense. So I try to bunch up activities that are in the same area together. That way I save time and I can also save money so that I'm not like just zigzagging in between places. So what I like to do is, if maybe I have a couple of places to visit going this way, I like to actually travel up until the last place and then start going down back to my accommodation as I do all those things. The other thing that I do is I check weather, because in each country that I go to, I love to go to the water park. That's like the one thing that I do for myself. So it's really important for me to check that the day that I'm at the water park, it's not raining. So after I've checked all these things, I just write down the dates and then distribute the activities evenly so that I don't have days where I'm doing too much, days that I have nothing to do, and yeah, successful itinerary. Last but not least, number 6, we can talk about the important documents take screenshots of everything, like literally everything. It saves so much time when you're asked for something, like let's say your ticket or just you're asked for anything. Going, you start opening, loading. For me, just take screenshots, put them all in a folder. So when someone asks me for something, I just take out my phone, go to the folder, show them whatever it is that I'm showing them. Also, I'll still print said documents out even if I have them on my phone, because if my phone dies, then I'm not able to prove that I have anything. So then I still have them in hard copy. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you have taken pictures of important documents like your passport, your ID card, your flight tickets, everything that you will definitely need. Email them to yourself and also email them to someone else back at home. That's just what I do as a precaution, because I have had so many horror stories of people who lose their passports and they just get saved because they had taken a picture of their passport before traveling. So yes, especially your passport, make sure you have a picture of that somewhere in your email. So that is it for this week's video. I hope you have picked up a trick or two. In case you have a tip or a trick or a hack that you want to give us, please comment down below so that we can all learn from it. In case you're wondering, my lipstick is Joanna K in the shade Unapologetic. And yeah, that's it for this week's video. Always remember to work hard and have good intentions. Until next time, bye guys.